Hello, welcome to episode 5 of All About That Action and season 1 of the podcast. Sorry I've been gone for a while. I haven't posted in a while, besides unless if you saw me on the TikTok. And I think what a perfect way to come back it would be to go over March Madness and bracketology and what each team poises a chance of winning the tournament, and basically I can help you out here with statistics of teams you need to know about and things that your average person wouldn't know. So I'm going to help you guys out with this podcast, and first we're going to go through every team I have up here and go through some simple stats and what their ceiling and what their floor is for March Madness, in my opinion, and then I'll go through my prediction for the first round of the bracket, and I'll actually do that tomorrow on episode 6 of the podcast, getting more into depth of this. So, to start, in the first 4 games, we got as you just heard, the Alabama State game and St. Francis University game is on live. This is not a big game, in any matter. Because, ultimately whoever wins is going, to have to play Auburn, which isn't going to be by any means a game. It's going to be a blowout. So Alabama State and St. Francis University, both 16 seeds, and they're playing for a spot in the tournament. Neither of them have a chance of making it far. Their ceiling is first-round exit, and their floor is first-round exit. Or I guess would be exit in the first 4 games. Moving over to Texas Xavier. This is an interesting game. These are 2 teams that are really talented but do not have a guaranteed look at the playoffs just yet. And if they do make it, they'll be playing Illinois in the first round, the 6th seed. So this is going to be a really interesting game tomorrow night. And by which, both of these teams are good. They're talented, like I said. Texas field goal percentage is just over the 45% mark, and Xavier is about 1% more than that. So they're both very talented and good shooting teams. If you look at the three-pointing percentage-wise, the Xavier Musketeers are much better, shooting about 40% just about, and Longhorns struggle there compared to the Musketeers. So I think in this situation, I have Xavier winning this and getting a pull into the bracket. And I think Xavier's ceiling would probably be the Sweet 16, and their floor is a first-round exit ultimately. And with the Longhorns, I think that their floor is a exit in the first game of 4, and their ceiling would maybe be round of 32, but I don't think they'll get by Xavier, nevertheless, Illinois. Moving on to the other matchup, the 2 16 seeds, American University and Mount St. Mary's University. Whoever wins this is going to play Duke, so again, it doesn't matter. Their ceiling is a first-round exit, and their floor is a first 4 exit, so it doesn't matter in that game. This one is probably going to be one of the most interesting games, in my opinion, of the whole tournament, and it's not even in the tournament, it's in the first 4 games. The Tar Heels take on the Aztecs for a chance at the tournament. Like I said, these 2 teams are very talented, and they're going to play 6th seed Ole Miss, which I think whoever wins this matchup, whether it's the Tar Heels or it's San Diego State, they are going to move on to the second round. I don't think that there is any chance that Ole Miss can stop either team. That being said, both teams are very good shooting-wise from the three-point line. I think San Diego State struggles. They're more of an effort-based team with a very good coach. The Tar Heels have, the more shining players in R.J. Davis and Elliot Cadeau. But again, I don't think that that the Ole Miss will be able to knock off either of these teams, depending on who makes it. So that being said, I got the Tar Heels winning that, but nevertheless, the Aztecs' ceiling, I would say, is the Sweet 16 as well as the North Carolina Tar Heels. And the floor for both of the teams is an exit in the first 4 matchup. So moving on to the actual bracket, we got Auburn, the 1 seed. And obviously, this is a good team. They are the number 1 ranked team. So it's, you obviously know it's a good team. I'm not so sure if they are, have a great shot at the championship because they choked last year as a 4 seed. They're a talented team, though, nevertheless. And this is going to be probably the lowest floor for a team, a 1 seed, that being said, in the bracket. And their floor is the round of 32. And their ceiling is the national title. I still do believe that they can make the national title and win it because they have the talent. They've been the best team in the country for the whole year, basically. But the reason I say their floor is the round of 32 is you look at the matchup right next to it. You take a quick trip over Louisville, Creighton, an 8 and 9 seed. Arguably, both of these teams could be in the top 7 ranks. Louisville finishing the season ranked 10th. Both of these teams, I think you all would agree with me, should not be ranked 8th or 9th. Both of these teams are very talented, and, I could see Auburn losing to either one of those. Obviously, it's not a great chance, but Auburn definitely could lose. That being said, Louisville, Creighton, both of these teams' floors is the first round exit because they're both pretty evenly matched. And I would say that their ceiling is the Sweet 16 because I do think they have that cause of getting by Auburn. It's just not likely. Moving on to Michigan, 5 seed, they take on UC San Diego. I'm big on Michigan this year. I know a lot of people aren't, but I do think they've got 2 really good big men and a great point guard to facilitate the offense. I do think Michigan has what it takes. It just depends how long it's going to take. Because it could be this year with Coach Dusty May, or it could be 5 years down the road. But I think this year they're looking to win it. People have them being first-round exits, so I think in that instance their floor is definitely a first-round exit. But I think their ceiling, I could even see them making it close to the Elite Eight for a ceiling-wise, which I think is very possible for the Michigan Wolverines. Moving down, UC San Diego playing Michigan Wolverines. I do think they have a really good chance, or not a really good chance, but have a fair shot at beating the Wolverines. That being said, their floor is definitely a first-round exit, but their ceiling, I could see them getting to the round of 32. I don't think they're going to get anywhere farther than that, but they definitely have a shot. Moving down the poll, Texas A&M. I don't think that they have a great, chance this year, per se, in the first round, because they're playing a really good Yale team. Probably the best we've seen Yale in the past, decade. Texas, they're really on their game. Texas A&M, I think they definitely have a over 50% chance of making it past the first round, but that's one of my upsets I have, and I think A&M's floor is a first-round exit, and their ceiling is a Sweet 16. I don't see them getting any farther than that. That being said, Yale, I think their floor, again, is a first-round exit. But ceiling, I could definitely see him getting to the Sweet 16. I think that's a really talented team. I'm big on Yale this year, and depending on whether it's UC San Diego or Michigan, if it's UC San Diego, that's obviously a much lighter walk to the Sweet 16. Then you move down, Ole Miss. They'll be playing either North Carolina or San Diego State. Honestly, this might sound like a shock, but I have their floor and ceiling at the same as a first-round exit. I don't think they're going to make it past the Tar Heels or the San Diego State because they're just not as talented. They're a great team, but they got a really unlucky draw, and I don't think they're going to get by that. Moving down, Iowa State, Lipscomb, a 3 seed versus 14 seed. Iowa State, definitely a talented team, has a good chance of getting by, and I think their ceiling is a potential Elite 8 scene, but I'm going to have their ceiling at Sweet 16 because of the teams that they would have to play, Michigan State or Marquette or the Lobos, New Mexico. So I'm going to have Their ceiling at Sweet 16, I don't think they'll get farther than that, and I think their floor is the first-round exit because there's a chance Lipscomb can get by Iowa State Cyclones, which, moving over to Lipscomb, their floor is a first-round exit, no doubt about it, and their ceiling is a 32-round exit. They're not going to get past the round of 32 if they do beat Iowa State. They're going to get smashed, whether it's San Diego State or UNC. Another matchup, Marquette versus the New Mexico Lobos. Marquette, talented team. Their ceiling is Sweet 16, as well as New Mexico's ceiling is Sweet 16, and their floor is a first-round exit. Michigan State, their ceiling is the Final Four. I don't think they're going to make it to the national title, but they are a really talented team. And their floor, I would say, is probably Sweet 16. You could argue it would be round of 32, but I'm going to say their floor is Sweet 16. Moving on, Florida, ceiling, national title. They're one of the best college basketball teams we've seen in a while, and their floor is going to be the round of 32. They're going to match up against UConn, I think, and that's, what we get down, UConn versus Oklahoma. I think UConn is going to have a good shot at getting past Florida, given Dan Hurley and Alex Karaban's history, back-to-back national titles. I know that's a little biased because they've won 2 national titles, but I think it's still, similar parts of what they have. Alex Karaban is an All-American. He's a great player. He's going to be a first-round draft prospect, maybe a lottery prospect in the draft. UConn is a real deal this year, whether you like it or not. Just because they're an 8th seed doesn't mean they can't get past Florida. That being said, I think their floor is the round of 32. There's no way Oklahoma is beating this Huskies team, and I think their ceiling is the Elite 8. I think if they get by Florida, they're getting to the Elite 8. And then you look at Oklahoma, floor and ceiling is both a first-round exit. They're not getting by the Huskies, mark my words. Moving down, Memphis, Colorado. Memphis is a very, very good team, as well as Colorado State. But I honestly, I think both of these teams have a fair shot at getting by. Memphis, I would say Sweet 16 is their ceiling, and their floor is the first-round exit. Colorado State, second round is their ceiling. First-round exit is their floor. Then you move down again. Maryland, 4-seed. GCU, the 13 seed. I think Maryland ceiling is at an all-time high. Although they finished this season not great, they are a great competitive team. I think their ceiling is the Elite 8, and their floor is a first-round exit, just because GCU in past years has been competitive in the tournament with the coach they have and the shooting they have. GCU is definitely not a sleeper. So GCU, their ceiling is a round of 32, and their floor is a first-round exit. Now moving down, Missouri, Drake, one of the biggest upsets picked so far through the pick-ins of March Madness. Drake over Missouri, a lot of people think it. I think people are doubting Missouri, though. They finished as a ranked team this year. Although I have Drake in most of my brackets this year, I think Missouri's ceiling could easily be seen as Sweet 16, because Texas Tech is not a good team that they would be playing in the second round, and their floor obviously is a first-round exit because Drake has that capability. Drake, their ceiling, I think, is the same as Missouri, a Sweet 16 bid, and their floor is a first-round exit. Moving down, Texas Tech, UNC Wilmington. Wilmington's floor and ceiling is the same, a first-round exit, and Texas Tech's ceiling is most likely the Sweet 16. They're not going to get by St. John, so Sweet 16 and their floor is not a first-round exit. It's the round of 32 because they're going to get by UNC Wilmington with no problem. Kansas, Arkansas, a very interesting one here. John Calipari, in his first year with Arkansas Razorbacks, it's a great, talented team. I think the Razorbacks' ceiling is the round of 32 just because you got to go against Rick Pitino's St. John's, which is they're a great team. That's who I have winning this year in many of my brackets, but I'll get to that later. They're a great team. Arkansas, I think their floor is the first round exit, ceiling is round of 32. Same with Kansas. Then you move to St. John's. The pick I have in a few leagues, I'm just a big Rick Pitino guy, and the whole story with St. John's, I think their floor is potentially Sweet 16, but I think you could even say that the floor is Elite 8 because this is such a talented team. I mean, you've never seen Rick Pitino, although he had Louisville for those few years in Kentucky, you've never seen him take a team this far with a skill level. It's not like this team had the skill that he had with Kentucky and Louisville. This is a real St. John's team. Their ceiling is the national title. Their floor is the Sweet 16. Now, moving on to the other side of the bracket, the Duke Blue Devils. A lot of questions on Cooper Flagg. I think he's going to be okay. Their ceiling is a national title. It is. They have the best player in college basketball. They have a great coach. Their ceiling is that. And I would say that their floor is probably the Sweet 16. I don't think Mississippi State or Baylor will beat them. That being said, Mississippi State and Baylor both have the same floor and ceiling. Their ceilings being the round of 32 and their floor being a first-round exit. Both of these teams are pretty evenly matched. And, I've been really split on who's going to win that game. It's going to be interesting, but neither team has a match or a chance for Duke. Moving down, Oregon Liberty. Two really talented teams. Oregon, I think, Sweet 16 is their ceiling because they're not going to beat Duke. And their floor is a first-round exit. Liberty definitely has the potential to upset Arizona, Akron. Arizona, I do think ceiling is an Elite 8 appearance because Duke can definitely be taken down. Caleb Love and Arizona Wildcats. And Akron as well. Arizona's floor to add on is a first-round exit because Akron, I think, can definitely upset as well. That being said, Akron, their ceiling is Sweet 16. I think if they win this game, they can get by Oregon or Liberty. They won't get by Duke, and their floor would be a first-round exit. BYU, VCU. I'm big on VCU this year. BYU, a lot of people like them. They're good at shooting. They have a pretty all-around team. I think, from what I've seen, either of these teams, their ceilings, BYU's ceiling is the Sweet 16, VCU's is the round of 32, and both of theirs is a first-round exit for floor. And I think BYU has a chance of getting by Wisconsin. It's not huge, but then, VCU would not get by Wisconsin. And then when you get to the Elite 8, they're, I don't think that, round of 32, both of these teams, round of 32, but then once you get to the Sweet 16, I don't think BYU will get past Alabama because I don't think they're built to beat a team like Alabama. And then Wisconsin, their floor is the round of 32. Again, they can get beat by BYU or VCU. Probably not VCU, but BYU, and they're going to beat Montana. Montana's floor and ceiling is a first-round exit. And Wisconsin's ceiling is the Final Four. They're not a good enough team to make it to the national title, but they can definitely go far in the bracket. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. Both of these teams have the same floor and ceiling. Ceiling being a round of 32 exit. Alabama's taking down either of them, and the floor ultimately is a first-round exit. And Alabama, their floor would be a Sweet 16 defeat, and their ceiling is the national title. I do believe that this team behind Mark Sears is at its best. Besides, when they had Brandon Miller and Sears, this team is really good. And I wouldn't sleep on them. They're a really good team. They're built for this kind of competition. I do believe that. And Robert Morris floor and ceiling is a first-round exit. Houston, ceiling, the national title, 1 seed. You're going to have the same ceiling Their floor is the round of 32 exit. Gonzaga and Georgia, very tough teams. Moving to Gonzaga and Georgia. Both of their ceilings are Sweet 16 exits because they can get by Houston, but I don't think they're going to get by and keep dancing after that. And both floors are a first-round exit. Clemson, McNeese. Clemson and McNeese, both floors are first-round exit. Clemson's ceiling is the Sweet 16. McNeese is the round of 32. Although I do believe McNeese will upset Clemson, I don't believe Purdue and High Point, or I don't believe McNeese can beat Purdue or High Point. I do believe Clemson could beat either of those teams. Then you look at Purdue, High Point. Purdue got a really tough matchup because you got High Point, who's a very good team. Obviously, not as good as some of these one seeds, but they're a great shooting team and have a lot of skills to get the job done. I think Purdue's ceiling is probably the Sweet 16, but I don't see how they're going to get by High Point, nevertheless, Clemson or McNeese, and their floor is a first-round exit. High Point, though, an interesting team. Their ceiling the same as Purdue, but that's saying a lot coming from a 13 seed. High Point ceiling, the Sweet 16. Their floor is a first-round exit ultimately because there's always a chance you can lose to a 4 seed. And then moving to Illinois, depending on who they play, Texas or Xavier. This is a really good team. I'm big on them. I think that they won't have any problem. I think their floor is a first-round exit, but I think they'll get by either of these teams. And I think their ceiling is, the Elite Eight. This is a really, really tough team. They can get past, Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe not Houston, but there's a chance. I definitely do believe that. And then you look at Kentucky, their ceiling is probably the Elite Eight. It's a really good team. Haven't looked a lot on them because of Calipari's, leaving. He's always a great coach there. And I think that their floor is a first-round exit. They've gotten really, bad performances in the past against 14 seeds and Troy. Their floor is a first-round exit. Their ceiling is the round of 32. Moving down, UCLA, Utah State. Utah State, I think, Sweet 16 is their ceiling. Floor is the first-round exit. UCLA, their ceiling is the round of 32. I don't think UCLA will get by Tennessee. Utah State might. And then Utah State, both of them would be, for their floor would be ceiling, or for their floor would be a first-round exit. And the final pick, Tennessee, I think if you look at Tennessee, they're a 2 seed. They're not losing first round. Their floor is a second-round exit to Utah State, I think. And their ceiling is, I think they might get by Sweet 16. So Elite Eight would be their ceiling, and Wolfhard, ceiling and floor both first-round exit. So those are, what I think of each team. I'll get my bracket out tomorrow. I hope this helps with your picking and gives you a little more context and information on what these teams poise a chance of the bracket. Thank you.